Do you want to crush credit card debt and get your life back? Then you don't want to miss this video. Welcome to Gary Talks Money, the finance channel without the gimmicks. My name is Gary, and today we're going to be wrapping up my 4-part series about paying off credit card debt. If this is your first time watching, welcome to the channel and welcome to my credit card debt payoff video series. This is the 4th and final video of the series, so if you missed out on the first 3, I definitely recommend going back and checking those out. If you're interested in following along with this series, I've actually put together an easy 12-step debt payoff worksheet that covers all the information I've talked about in these videos. The worksheet is totally free and it's available on my website. If you want to check it out, a link will be in the description below. Now that you're up to speed, let's go ahead and wrap up the final 3 steps. All right, huge congratulations. You have made it through 3 of the 4 debt payoff videos, and you are on the last 3 steps of this debt payoff process. That is a huge accomplishment, and I want to personally congratulate you. If you've made it this far, you are definitely in the minority. So congratulations. I am looking forward to wrapping up these final 3 steps with you. Before we get to those final 3 steps in this debt payoff process, I want to briefly look at the 3 steps that we covered in our last video. Those were steps 7 through 9. Step number 7, if you'll recall, was called switch to a cash-only spending model. And that step was really simple. We basically switched from using credit cards as our primary means of paying for things to a cash or debit-only spending model. Step number 8 was begin saving money. Again, another very self-explanatory step, but we basically started setting aside funds into a separate bank account to begin paying off our debt. And then finally, step number 9 in our last video was called incrementally pay off debt. Again, another super self-explanatory step. Basically, we began paying off our debt incrementally using one of those debt payoff methods that we discussed in our previous video, video number 2. Now, steps number 7 through 9 were really critical to that credit card debt payoff process, but steps number 10 through 12, I want to make sure that we stick the landing with these. So let's go ahead and get started with step number 10. That step is called stick with the plan. Now, step number 10 is a super simple step, and it's sort of an encouragement step. You can kind of look at it as a little pep rally on your way to the final 2 steps. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is I want you to go back and I want you to look at your budget that you've created. I want you to look at your debt tracker that you've created. And I want you to continually consult those 2 documents to make sure that you're staying on course. Now, if you found yourself falling behind, that's okay. That's perfectly natural. Things come up, life happens. But I want you to make minor adjustments to each of those documents as needed to make sure that you get back on track as quickly as possible. Now, my other little bit of encouragement is don't let minor financial setbacks derail you long term. Things like unexpected expenses are going to arise, but I want you to deal with them and move on. Absolutely do not let those things derail you from making your end goal, which is paying off this credit card debt. The last thing I want you to do is to jeopardize the progress that you've made so far. So just deal with these minor inconveniences, make adjustment to your documents, make adjustment to your plans, and just move on. It may take you a little bit longer to get to the end than you had planned, but the important thing is finishing the job that we started and paying off all of that credit card debt. All right, now that we finished up step number 10, I want to congratulate you because we've basically finished up the 10 most important steps in this 12-step debt payoff process. These final 2 steps are sort of supplementary steps, if you will. Now, while these final 2 steps may not apply to every single person, I do want to mention them anyway because they are both important. Step number 11 is called look for ways to supplement your income. Now, if you find that the progress that you're making is taking a little bit longer than you expected, you may want to look for some additional ways to supplement your income. While there are many ways that this could be accomplished, a few suggestions come to mind. The first one is you could potentially get a part-time job working nights or weekends. The next thing you could do is maybe start a side gig working for a delivery service or a rideshare app. You could potentially sell some of your unused items at a yard sale or on platforms like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. You could also ask for a raise or more hours at your current job if you would like to bring in more income that way. And finally, if push comes to shove, you may actually have to look for a new job with a higher rate of pay. While not all of those ideas are going to work for everyone, a combination of a few of them may be exactly what you need to get you over the hump and get you towards the finish line to that debt payoff. All right, now that we got step number 11 out of the way, that brings us to step number 12, the final ultimate step in this 12-step debt payoff process. And this step is called permanently change your spending habits. And this is a cautionary tale for the future. Now, ideally, once we got to step number 12, we have totally, completely paid off all of our credit card debt, and we're in much better financial shape than we were when we started this entire process. Now that we've made it to this debt payoff finish line, I want to give you a round of applause because you have done so much work to get here, and this was not an easy task. Now, that being said, we've worked so hard to get here that I never want you to get back in a position where you need to do these 12 steps ever again. So that's why step 12 is called permanently change your spending habits. And that step is designed to encourage you to rewire your spending habits so that you don't get here again. Now, with that in mind, I have a few tips that should hopefully help you make better spending decisions in the future and prevent you from getting in a situation where you need this 12-step process again. So my first suggestion is not to make large purchases on a whim. Take a few days to think about your purchase before pulling the trigger on an expensive item. Many times the urge to buy that item will go away if you just let it sit for a little while. Take a few days to seriously consider it, and if you still want to do it, you can do it, but make sure you have the funds to cover it and make sure that you're not going into debt to get it. The next thing is, only spend the money that you have. Do not rely on credit cards, personal loans, or installment loans to finance your lifestyle and make large purchases. Instead, I want you to save for large purchases well in advance and spend cash for them whenever possible. My next suggestion is to reduce the number of credit cards that you have in your wallet. Chances are you're only using a couple of those cards on a day-to-day basis, so my suggestion is to reduce the temptation that you have and just leave those cards that you don't use regularly at home so that they're not in your wallet and they're not there readily accessible begging you to spend on them. Reducing the total number of credit cards that you have access to in your wallet on a day-to-day basis is going to help reduce your urge to spend. It's also going to help you prevent getting in debt in the future. It is totally up to you whether you want to outright cancel those cards or just put them into storage for a rainy day. My next suggestion is to not take on large projects that aren't in your budget. Starting major projects, things like home renovations, car repairs, or new hobbies can be extremely expensive. What I want you to do is I want you to avoid the temptation to spend and accrue debt by just putting off major purchases and projects until they're more financially feasible. And my final suggestion is to keep a close eye on your finances. The best way to avoid getting into debt in the future is to take a proactive approach to your finances, keep a close eye on them, and don't let your spending get out of hand. Stick to a strict budget and plan for large expenses well in advance so that you're not caught off guard by them and you don't spend money that you don't have. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me along this 12-step debt payoff journey. I hope that you found the information in these last 4 videos to be helpful. If you did, please be sure to let me know down in the comments section below. Hit that like button and please consider subscribing. Don't forget about that free 12-step debt payoff worksheet that is linked down in the description below. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you later.